Hey, Mick.
No, g'day.
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right. Thanks for meeting us here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Coming all the way from upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm going to start it off with the question that I think when I hear about Coast2Kosci, what's it like to run that far?
It's a lot of things. I think the most daunting part was at the start line, and the realisation of running 240 kilometres hit me all at once. And yeah, there's a lot of emotions that go throughout the course of the day, but there was a point at which my legs didn't hurt any more than they already could, so kind of just numbs eventually.
And okay, so the first thing that people normally that I think would go through your head when you hear, oh, someone's run 240 kilometres is like, everybody knows that that's physically insane, right? But mentally, when you're sitting on the start line, what goes through your head?
Oh, I burst into tears on the start line.
At nervousness?
Yeah, because I was totally fine with the race and doing it until I got on the beach, and then they did a welcome to country, and they were talking about the different landscapes you would travel through, and I thought, oh, it's actually quite a long way. And then, yeah, and I think because everybody is nervous, it's like this nervous energy that, like, there's no one going into that going, this will be fine.
Yeah.
Like, everybody is nervous. There's no one there who knows that they're going to get to the end.
And I imagine, like, through necessity, the race briefing would be crazy as well, right? Because
I think because of COVID, it changed things.
Oh, okay.
Normally they have like a pre-race dinner, which I had to cancel. There's a bit of a briefing, but like not like UTA, like where you have a whole hour and a half or whatever the day before talking about it. It was kind of like, you know what you signed up for.
Yeah,
Do
there's
the
qualifying
sensible thing.
races, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so you've
you
got to
have an idea.
Yeah, you got to have your wits about you
Yeah.
to even get into it, which is smart. Maybe not have your wits about you, who knows?
Okay, so for those who've never heard of the race, can you sum it up? Like, what is it? Where do you run from? Where do you run to? What's the race?
Yeah, so you start at the beach at there's a town on the south coast called Eden.
Yep.
It's quite far down south. And the beach itself is called Boynton Beach. And so you start on the beach and you travel through a whole bunch of landscapes until you get to the highest point in Australia, which is Mount Kosciuszko. And then you have to turn around and go back down another 9 kilometres from the summit.
Oh, you don't finish at the summit?
No.
Oh, I just made the assumption that's where you finish.
It's grim. So you go through you go through the finish line and you've still got 18 Ks. So because you've got to go to the summit and you've got to turn around and come back.
Oh, that's brutal.
And there's years where they don't let people go because of the weather is too bad. So this year, after a certain point, they didn't let people go up because the weather was so bad.
Wow.
I got through, unfortunately.
And, okay, how long did it take you?
31 and 15 minutes, hours. 31 hours. Brain hasn't.
Yeah.
31 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, wow. Okay, and where'd you finish? As in,
placing.
like, in the field? Yeah. I know where you finished now, but yeah.
I was 4th girl and 7th overall. So more women in the top 7 than men, which was good.
That's good. That's a win. Yeah, okay. And so let's talk gear. Equipment. We're retailers. We sell, we sell the works. There's probably no one more qualified to talk about long distance running shoes than you, and you sell them every day. But so what did you choose to wear?
Yeah, so a few things I didn't take into account, which is where the gear comes into it.
Okay.
So I started in a pair of Evo Mafate 2s because I knew...
From Hoka.
From Hoka, yeah. Conveniently.
Not your
These
size.
are not mine.
Yeah.
But started in those because I knew the first section was trail.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, I'll change at some point, but I don't know when, but I'll change when I get onto the road pretty much. And I mean, when I say trail, it's like very gentrified trail. And the beauty with Coast2Kosci is you've got a crew pretty much the whole way. You don't see them
it's
for
fully supported. Yeah.
You don't see them for the first like 25K, but after that you can have them as often as you want. So I didn't carry anything. I carried a pack for the first 25K. Had some water, a couple of gels, but didn't have to carry it. There was no mandatory gear.
Oh, wow.
Until you get to the summit, so we'll come to that. But then my feet were crazy blistered, like 40 Ks in, which is weird because I never blister in that shoe. So that, yeah.
Any idea why?
I think, after speaking to a few people, I think because, and it's stupid now that I think about it, but the camber of the road, because it obviously cambers down and my foot was sloping.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. And it was so hot that I think my feet probably swelled quite a bit.
Yep.
So I think I probably could have done with a wider shoe.
Okay.
And I probably could have done with just running in the middle of the road rather than on the camber. And then changed my shoes at 50K because my feet were screwed. And then went to a pair of Cliftons, but my feet were already toast by then.
So how's it feel to have feet that are toast and you've already run an ultra marathon?
Yeah.
And you still had, what?
180 Ks to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like kind of worried about my feet. And Tim.
Kind of worried.
Yeah, Tim was worried. He was like, oh, like, if they're that bad now, how bad are they going to get? But my thought was, if they're that bad now, they can't get much worse. So we'll just tape them up and they'll be fine.
Okay.
And so there's a disgusting photo that the race photographer took of me taping my feet. And he's like, do you mind if I take photos of this? I was like, I don't really know if you want it, but you can have it. So he took photos of me taping my feet. And I literally was just like taping it with like strapping tape. Because I was like, well, if I just cover them, hopefully they'll stop blistering. But then, yeah, I got into the Cliftons, but my feet were already. I should have taken a wide fitting shoe for sure. It's definitely something that I would.
And you don't
change.
normally wear a wide fitting shoe. It's just when you're running that far, your feet grow that.
They must have, right? And I think the camber really, really, really impacted my foot placement, and which meant that it was just rubbing on that lateral side for however many Ks, and eventually it was going to blister. Mm-hmm. I took a knife to my Cliftons at like...
Yeah. If anyone wants to see them, they're on display in our Mossman store.
Like 150K? Nah, 140K maybe? And just cut the lateral sides out. Yeah. And it was perfect. It worked great. And I left them on for the rest of the day.
To be fair, the shoes, apart from the cut in them, they're actually in great nick.
Yeah, and I'd run in them, like, obviously leading into the race.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to run in them. They'd be pretty flattened. But, yeah, they were fine.
Got you there.
Yeah, and I was going to run the last section because it's trail in the Clifton as well. But because my feet were so bad, I just didn't want to take my shoes off. So I was like, well, I'll just leave them on and hope for the best, I guess.
Just wing it.
Yeah, you know.
And so, okay, first, this is a funny question, right? But what on earth made you want to do this race?
Yeah, so like years and years, no, it wasn't even years and years. 2018, I made the call I wanted to do it after doing a 100-miler. I was like, I've run 100 miles because you've got to do qualifying races to qualify for Coast2Kosci. So if you want to do it, it's like a process.
Yeah.
So
you can't just do a park run and
nah,
yeah, okay.
Which is great because there'd be so many people who would be way out of their depth, I reckon.
Yep.
And so I did 100K, then I did 100 mile, and then when I'd done the 100 mile, I was like, well, and I know that Coast2Kosci favours hard 100 miles. So once you do the hard 100 mile, I was like, well, cool, I've done that. So now I'll apply for Coast2Kosci. So I did that. But I remember years ago watching, when I'd first sort of started ultra running, I saw Andrew Tuckey run Coast2Kosci, and he just killed it. Like, it was one of the most amazing runs I've ever seen. Like, took him 24 hours, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So fast. And, like, he just ran so strong all day. And I remember thinking, like, shit, that's cool. I really want to do that. And probably because you see the best part of the race, which is someone absolutely killing it. Mm-hmm. What you don't see is all the people that make that race as hard as it is.
Yep.
So I probably went in like, I don't think I underestimated it, but I probably did a little bit. Like, I thought this is all runnable. It's a long way, but in terms of time, it's not going to be that different to what I did at G&W 100 mile was. But yeah, I definitely found it a lot harder than I expected it to be.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, this is a really hard question to answer, I think. But what percentage would you say is mental, and what percentage would you say is physical?
I think it's almost like 80-20.
Mental to physical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's only so much running you can do to prepare yourself. Like, it's not like a marathon where you've got to hit certain sessions and you've got to hit certain numbers and in order to get an outcome. Like, with that kind of distance, so long as you've got a history of running and you have like an aerobic base to begin with, like if you can go out there and you can just like all this stuff is who can suffer the longest really. Like how long can you put up with the pain of being out there? And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, like everyone in that field has years and years and years of running experience, and that's not to take away from anyone's running history, but those people all have like crazy head on their shoulders. Like the stuff that you see out there is wild. Like the stuff people endure is ridiculous. Like, and just, yeah, I think like if it was only physical, you'd have marathon runners going to ultras and things like that and killing it, and that's not always the case.
And so what is it that's attractive about this? Like obviously running that distance is a great feat, but like it's a lot of suffering, it's a lot of pain. A lot of people look at it and as you would have heard, right, and just go, no way, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. Like, what is it that's attractive about it? Is it like a personal feat, a personal challenge? Is it like I've heard a lot of ultra runners say, I like going to that dark place because it's there's a process of coming back from that that's really therapeutic. Like what?
Yeah, I think like for me, I like the journey of it. So like looking at where you start to where you finish and everything you go through in between. Like you would never see that side of Australia unless you did something like that race.
Yep.
You know, like we had friends from Melbourne come up who were like, we'd never be here.
Yep.
And so you go through rainforest and then you're going through farmland, then you go into the Alpine region. Like there's just no way you would do that if you weren't a part of the race. The thing about Coast2Kosci that I really, really like is that like 99% of it is runnable. So like you go to UTMB or something, for instance, like you're not running that much of that race because of how mountainous it is, obviously.
Elevation, right?
Yeah. But for me, like I like running and I like that you can run almost all of it. There's like a few climbs that you
so it's not worth running, right?
Good, but you'd be in a high place. But for the most part, like it's all running. So it's I find that pretty attractive. I mean, I think there's only so many times you can kind of go to the well with that kind of those kinds of events. So I actually don't like. I look forward to like problem solving out of those things. But that's almost like the thing that puts me off going and doing those events is because you get to a point where like the comeback from going that deep into the well is pretty hard. Like I think people really underestimate the mental drain that you experience for months after these events, like beyond the physical, I think anyway. Like for most people, they always talk about like post-race blues and stuff like that. Like that's pretty true, I reckon, because you just exhausted completely.
Yeah, wow.
So that's almost a deterrent sometimes for me.
Yourself and your partner Tim run a business called The Distance Collective, and you train athletes for all distances and calibers of running, right? What was the preparation for this event? Like, how do you train for this? Because I think of like, I think of our customers who sign up for UTA 100, right? Ultra Trail Australia 100, and I think that's very daunting,
totally.
Right? And there's not many people in the world who've actually run a 100K race, right? And even there, people go, where do I even start? How do I run 100? So like when you talk 240, it's like what training is actually involved in there?
Yeah, I think the mistake people make is like, oh, if I do 100K, I've got to double my training for a 200 or even 100 miler. And I'm very much of the like less is more approach. There's like, we could be here all day talking about schools of thought in terms of training stimulus and what the best way to achieve that for these events is. But from where I'm coming from, like I didn't do a run longer than 40Ks training for Coast2Kosci. And I know that there were people in that race who had done 70, 80.
40Ks, wow.
Yeah.
So that, like, just from the outset, looking at that, I think you're still 200Ks off the race.
Totally.
Obviously.
Yeah. But I think the big thing is that if you're signing up to do something like this, you've probably done well, you've had to have done 100K and 100 mile or whatever it is that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've done those things before, you've got that experience. Like all this race is experience. Like I think that the mistake a lot of people make, and you see it on the other side of these events, is people overtrain
Mm-hmm.
going into these things, and they think I need to do 70K runs every weekend, and by the time you get to the event, you've run your event. Like you're too tired, you're knackered. Your body, like you can't expect your body to behave like a machine and just keep backing up week after week after week, because it just doesn't work that way. So I think for me it was more about like I guess like I had a dry run of it in 2018 before it got cancelled.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of knew, looking back, what worked during that period and what didn't work. I had a pretty rough training block, like definitely not ideal. Like there were a few key weekends that I missed just because I just didn't feel like I had the energy to go and do that. So I think it's like knowing when it's okay to push through that, and knowing when it's okay that like if someone you know is going and doing a 100K run, like you don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Because it like for me, if someone said to me, for you to run Coast2Kosci, you've got to go and do a 70K training run every weekend. There's no way. Like that's harder than the race.
Yeah. Well, also like how do you actually fit that in a normal life as well?
And like, you're not a professional athlete.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I got to go to work 5 days a week, and then, like, okay, so when do you recover from that stuff? So that's like, if what we were doing was just running, then yeah, maybe you'd get away with that stuff. But I think, different strokes for different folks. But there's like, I've got a guy who wants to do it this year, and there's like no way I would send him out on a 70K training run. Like maybe a couple of back-to-back longer runs. It's just about consistency and like building the mental resilience to do it.
Okay, so let's say, a client comes to you. I'm just trying to think of a really common, okay, UTAs, when we film this, it's 6 weeks away. Let's say someone runs Ultra Trail Australia. They do the 50K. They love it. They've heard about this Coast2Kosci race. Give you a call, send you an email at Distance Collective and say, I want to run Coast2Kosci. I just did my longest run, 50K. What's the lead in? How long does it how do they even prepare for that race from that base, if you know what I mean?
I think the first question I would say is why? Like, why do you want to do it?
Yep.
Because if you don't know why, you're not going to get there. So like, the problem people have is everything needs to be now. And like, if someone came to me and said, I've just done UTA 50, I want to do Coast2Kosci in December, I'd be like, let's make it an 18-month plan. Like, let's do it 2022. Like, I think it's like we've had this conversation with people. Like, it's okay for you not to do everything here and now. Like, you've got to be okay with that progression, because like you've kind of got to earn the right to go and run that stuff. Like, you can't just go out and do it. You can kind of fob your way through some events, but that's not one of them. So like, you see people like permanently broken after those kinds of events. Like I know of people who have been in that situation. So it's not something that I would say to someone, yep, no worries, like let's go, let's train for that race, because I just don't think that, one, it'd be responsible, but two, like you want to enjoy the milestones in your running too. Like going from a 50K to a 240K race in the space of 6 months, like I don't know where the enjoyment would be in that. You'd also need to try and fit in 100K and a 100 mile in that 6 months too. Yeah. So it's one of those things that for me, like to coach someone responsibly, like there's no way I would say, let's go for it.
Yep.
And I think people need to be okay with not everything needs to be now. And social media has a really awful way of making people feel like what they're doing isn't enough. Like the amount of times we hear, I'm just doing the 20 or just doing the 50. Like I purely want to do like the 100, because the 50 and the 20 are like too hard because they're too fast. So it's like, it's one of those things that people always want to downplay what they're doing. Yeah,
there's this perception that like at Ultra Trail Australia, that unless you're doing the 100, you're kind of almost like flaking out. Yeah,
it's like you're playing second fiddle to the 100, and I just think that's not the case. Like, there's been plenty of athletes who have gone and done the 100 and gone,
Yeah.
and they felt pressured to do it because, you know, there's people who say, "Oh, do the 100 next year." Like, I don't want to do it. Like,
well, you said it before. You're doing Buffalo Stampede next week, and you're doing the marathon because you think it's easier than the
than the 20.
Than the 20.
Because it has like the same amount of vert, but it's over more distance.
Yeah, which might sound crazy to some people, but I think it does make a lot of sense.
Except that it's on a Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Which means I can't have beers on Saturday night.
And so I might have given it away there, but what's next for you?
Yeah, I'll do Buffalo. That's just going to be a bit of fun, I think. Like, I'm not racing it. I don't want to race it. I say that. I'll get there and I'll be like...
Yeah. I'm just laughing at the idea of a casual marathon in the mountains, you know?
Well, yeah, it's funny because I really love running down there.
Yeah.
So anytime I can have the chance...
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
So good. Anytime I can have the chance to run down there and not have to, like, worry about carrying stuff, or I can run point to point somewhere, and, like, that's pretty cool. So I'll do that. I don't know. Maybe something at UTA. We'll see.
Yeah, you're going to get talked into that for sure.
Yeah, probably. Not the new 22 course, though.
Okay, and then Coast2Kosci. Is there any desire to do it again, or is one and done?
Nah, I'll do it again. I wanted to do it this year, but it's taken me so long to come back from it.
Yeah.
Like, it's now, April, and I reckon I'm just hitting, like, my straps again. Whereas, like, the whole month of January, February, most of March was, like, a write-off. I was still running, but I just felt rubbish pretty much.
Yeah.
90% of the time.
And just just flat?
Super fatigued. Yeah. And
like, what about, like, heart rate? Do you have an elevated heart rate, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay a lot of attention to my heart rate, but, like, quality of sleep, pretty bad. I got really sick after Coast2Kosci.
Well,
I picked up little Alfredo stomach bug, which definitely hindered my recovery. Yeah. Thanks, Alfred.
That was a tough week for Michaela and Stu.
That was rough.
Yeah.
So not eating properly, like, there was, like, a big follow-on effect. So,
well, I imagine if you've completely wrecked your central nervous system, right?
Wasn't
from
happy.
doing that, like, getting sick would be so easy. Like,
yeah.
It would take a long time to recover from that.
Yeah, your immune system's just shot. But Coast2Kosci released a video, like, I don't know, was maybe a week or 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And I watched it and had, like, tears in my eyes because I was like, oh, we've got to go back. Tim's like, I thought you said we're not doing it this year. I was like, I was wrong. We're going back. So I don't know. I say this, but it depends. I don't know. I want to do, like, I don't know if I'm ready to go there again. I think just have to respect the event and the distance and the time. And there's guys that go and do it every single year, which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
But if I do it, I have to run 100K. So I'll have to find a 100K run.
Oh, you have to re-qualify.
Well, yeah. The beauty is that because I've done Coast2Kosci, that's like one of my qualifiers.
Yeah.
But then, I'll have to do 100K throughout the year.
I thought you've done it and smashed it. You just waltzed straight back in.
Nah, even one guy who had done it when I did it, had done it 11. It was his 11th time, and he still has to qualify every year.
Really?
Yeah.
You just show the Akubra with the badges on it.
His Akubra would be so heavy. It's got all the pins in it. He'd be like
a bit lopsided.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, can you explain what the Akubra is about?
Yeah. So when you finish, you don't get like a medal or anything, but you get given like a genuine Akubra, like a proper Australian Akubra.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best thing I've ever gotten.
Yeah, it's
like,
epic.
I love it.
You love it so much it's permanently on you.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually worn it anywhere. I should probably wear it. But yeah, you get a pin every time you finish. Yep. And so you get this like little triangle pin that goes in the side. And so for people who have done it 11 times, they don't have a lot of room on their Akubra with their pins.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, it's pretty special. And I think it's like, it's a pretty cool, like, it was pretty, like, I mean, I'm emotional at the best of times, so, but getting that Akubra was, like, definitely one of the, like, the best moments I've in my life, for sure. It was really cool. Yeah.
And so, like, when you're at events, does anyone actually, like, do you see the Akubras getting around?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think
it's like
people
the secret
wear
little
it.
badge of honour.
Yeah,
like,
people like,
those who know.
Well, I remember seeing people's Akubras and being like, oh, that Akubra's so cool.
Can you hold up your arm and show? Yeah, so it's permanently on there.
Yeah, it's really cute.
You might not wear that, but
no, it's there all the time.
Yeah.
But my friend sent me, like the little emoji with the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
She was like, you can use this emoji now. It's you. So there's a lot of benefit.
Run 240K.
Use
to
an
be able to
emoji.
use emoji. I like it.
Yeah, it's a very limited fanfare with Coast2Kosci. It's like you finish, they tell a story about you when you finish and when they present your Kura, because there's only 50 people in the field. So the race directors have a pretty intimate relationship.
Well, yeah.
And mine was, she cried at the finish line for 7 minutes. I was like, please tell me this isn't about me. And he said my name. I was just like, no. But I did cry at the finish line.
Yeah, there's some epic photos.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, thanks for chatting to us.
That's all right.
And I guess we'll go back upstairs and go back to work now. All right, thanks, Mick.
Bye.